We are just a week away from the October 11 event, Mind Goids, not Roids, which is bound to be a major player-driven community goal. And like all major community goals that involves playing together in a significantly sizable instance, there are a few things that are appropriate for people to be aware of to enable everybody to have the best possible experience. Some are technical in nature, given the peer-to-peer networking architecture of Elite is somewhat dated and doesn't behave well when a lot of people are playing together, and some which are just based on etiquette and common sense behavior so that everybody can have the overall best experience. Plus, I'm sure there's questions about the logistics of the event, how it's all going to work, how to get there and the like. So we're going to cover all those in this briefing video. So first and foremost, when you launch the game, before you even go into the game proper, the first thing we ask participants to go is to go in their options and their option select network settings. Network settings will bring up a view that looks like this. And in this view, you want to make sure that IP version 6 is disabled. IPv6 stack in this game is really poorly implemented. It creates issues and doesn't help with anything, so make sure that's turned off. You want to make sure your IPv4 is enabled, otherwise your networking is not going to work at all, which presumably will be, otherwise the game wouldn't work. But that's not the main thing we're going to ask you to do. What we're going to ask you to do is we're going to ask you to turn on the port forwarding setting. And in addition to turning on the port forwarding setting, we're going to ask that you also select a mapped port number. Now, it doesn't matter which port you select. It's totally fine for you to select the default one, which is 5100, but you need to select a port or the setting will not stick. So turn port forwarding on, select whatever port you fancy, pick the default if in doubt, of 5100, and then click apply. After you click apply, you actually need to restart the game. You need to quit the desktop and restart the game from desktop. Having done that, you're done and you're good with network settings and you're ready to move to the next step, which is figuring out in which private group you're going to play. And we're going to be doing this event in a number of essentially Geo-Sharded private groups, which means people from similar geographic regions are going to be playing in specific private groups to try and minimize network lag between the peer-to-peer participants, which otherwise can really wreck the experience for those who are in different continents, and the game suddenly decides to put together somebody who lives in Australia with somebody who's living in Berlin, and that, believe me, doesn't work well. So how are we going to do this? People who play in North America should join the Xeno Strike Force private group. People who play in Europe, the Middle East, or Africa should join the Anti-Xeno Initiative private group. People who people who live in Asia or the Pacific region should join the private group of Commander Raghav, which hasn't accepted my private group request yet and hasn't opened it yet up. So we'll show you how to actually request a private group invite. You search for Commander Raghav 102. And he's actually playing, and you basically can select to join the private group, having looked him up in the social settings. He hasn't done it yet, but on the day of the event, he will set his private group to auto-accept, so that the request to join his private group will automatically go through. He doesn't need to manually accept it. Once you request a private group, it will automatically show up in the list of your private groups. And finally, for South America, we ask that you use the private group of Commander Koben Boettger, who again hasn't already set his private group to auto accept, but he will by the day of the event, and as a result we'll let people join his private group for those who live in South America and want to play Elite and have this event in South America. So those are the 4 Geo-Sharded private groups that we're going to ask people to join for the purpose of minimizing lag. If you're in doubt based on where you live, maybe you live in countries on the border of Europe or Asia, use your own best judgment with regards to what is the best private group to join. There's no hard and fast rule. This is just trying to make the lag experience better for anyone. Anyhow, I'm in North America, so I'm going to start the game. I'm going to join a private group session, and since I'm in North America, I'm going to be joining the private group of Xeno Strike Force. Connect to private group setting, and this brings me into the game in the right private group with people from my same region. This way, we've effectively created geo-sharding for instancing for the game, which should help immensely with lag, especially at the scale of the event that we are talking about. Now the question is, where will the event be held? The event will be held in California sector BA-A E6, which I will show you in a second if I can figure out my galaxy map button. There you go. California sector BA-A E6. If you haven't bookmarked this system already, I would suggest you bookmark this system ahead of the event so you know where it is. Note something, it's pretty far from the bubble. This system is 1,031 light years from the current position of our carrier, which means it's more than 2 carrier jumps away. So it's going to take a while to get there. With carriers, at least 2 jumps, in some cases 3. In the case of our carrier from here, it's going to be 3. So get there ahead of time, or it might take a while, since during events, carrier jump times can go up to even an hour. So it's something to think about in advance. Within the system, there's a number of Anti-Xeno combat zones. We will be fighting at the Anti-Xeno combat zone around Planet 4. It is a high-intensity Anti-Xeno combat zone, which means there's 2 Hydras at the end. So there's plenty of targets for everyone to shoot at in each and every one of our instances. So this is our destination, California sector BA-A E6, Planet 4, the high-intensity combat zone, which is above this planet. Because it's pretty far, and because this event is meant to be very accessible also to complete newcomers to the game, we are arranging a series of shuttles from both the bubble and from the Pleiades to enable commanders who don't have a carrier and may want to bring a combat ship that doesn't necessarily want to equip a fuel scoop and a frameshift drive booster to get there while sort of like being shuttled around on like Squadron Carriers. Since Squadron Carriers now have the ability to have everyone dock, and as a result finally can be used as taxis for the event. So there's 2 major taxis. One is leaving from the bubble, and one specifically is leaving from I believe this system, which is, no, sorry, wrong system. So one, there it is. First one is the Xeno Strike Force Squadron Carrier, which is leaving from system Nuenets. So the event horizon is the Xeno Strike Force Squadron Carrier, and this is the carrier, the taxi, if you want to bus, that leaves from the bubble. If you want a taxi ride from the bubble, this is the Squadron Carrier to dock at. Event horizon of Xeno Strike Force. If you want to ride from the Pleiades instead, the taxi that leaves from the Pleiades, where a lot of commanders have like their ships, their egg ships in Asterope and the like, the taxi from the bubble is going to be the Anti-Xeno Initiative headquarters Squadron Carrier, the Astras, leaving from system Delphi. The Astras is the AXI Squadron Carrier. It will be leaving from Delphi, and the event horizon is the Xeno Strike Force Squadron Carrier, and it will be leaving from Nuenets. These 2 carriers will be leaving for their destination no later than 1400 hours UTC on October 11, so 5 hours before the event. If you are not on board precisely at that time, the buses will not wait for you and will leave without you, and you will have to find your own way to the event. So bear that in mind in case you want to use the bus. The bus schedule is buses are leaving from the Pleiades and from the bubble no later than 1400 hours UTC on October 11. And they will be returning to their respective location at some point after the event. Like, we'll probably schedule the jump like 30 minutes or so after the event concludes. So if the event starts at 1900 hours, somewhere in a range of 2230, 2250, something like that. Like, basically at the conclusion of the event, these carriers will be making their way back to the bubble. So again, if you want a ride back to the bubble, make sure you are on board at the end of the event, which is 3 hours after the event begins. So at 2200 hours UTC on October 11. So this is the schedule of the buses. Now, how do you set up or configure your ship in order to do that? Now, this event is called Mine Goids, not Roids, and so and as you may be following, I've actually been doing some Goid mining in the Type 11, in the release Type 11, which I handsomely do not recommend any else do, because it's not easy. What we have done is we've created a video of a so-called easy mode Corsair, which exists in both a completely unengineered version and in a highly engineered version for complete newcomers or more experienced commanders alike. This is the easiest build to use, and it is the one we recommend for use in this event. The specifications of this build is beyond the purpose of this particular video. If you want to go and see what this build is, go and look at the dedicated video where we talk about the easy mode Corsair. So that's the build. There's one more thing that we ask all commanders to follow though, which is we ask that for this event, you go in your ship under pilot preferences and that you turn report crime against me off. So this is by default on. We ask all commanders to turn it off in a group event because friendly fire, accidental friendly fire, happens. And getting a bounty because somebody kind of sort of just plopped into your view from out of left field and there was nothing you could do, you just hit them accidentally, results in you getting a bounty and as a result not being able to repair at most stations, and if you get destroyed, being shipped off to a prison megaship. It's just annoying and frustrating, and it makes the experience miserable for people who accidentally hit you. So turn it off. It also does absolutely nothing to protect you from gankers or others who would come after you. This is not a deterrent. So the only thing it does is annoy people. So common etiquette for Anti-Xeno combat zones is to turn report crime against me off. Please make sure you do so before the event, and that will result in a more pleasant experience for all participants. Beyond that, there's not that much left to regards to etiquette and the like. There's going to be voice channels in Discord. So in the Anti-Xeno Initiative Discord, we're going to have voice channels by region that allow people to communicate in voice. And that's totally optional. You don't have to join those if you don't want to. You can if you want to. Part of the experience that you choose, totally up to you. If you want to, it helps coordinate, to be able to communicate via voice, so it'll be faster than trying to type in system chat. System chat is going to be a complete mess during these large events, trying to organize and ask for a wing and the like, which by the way is not necessary because you can dirty drop onto AXZ and the game will put you in an instance automatically, which simplifies things quite a bit compared to some past events we did where we're trying to coordinate wings and the like, which is just impractical when you have several hundreds if not thousands of people trying to instance up with each other. Also keep in mind there may be multiple instances going on at the same time, so in voice chat just bear it in mind. Like general etiquette in voice chat is to use the chat responsibly, so people don't want to hear, you know, every heatsink you fire. Heatsink fired! Heatsink fired! If you use voice attack, please turn your chat to voice activation to push to talk. From voice activation to push to talk. Otherwise, you're just going to make the experience miserable for everybody. Again, if you're in a noisy, loud environment, again, consider switching to push to talk because the rest of the community doesn't necessarily want to know about your grandma's grocery shopping experience that morning, whatever else conversations happening in the background. So that's just some common etiquette on how to use the voice channels in the AXI Discord. Again, this is a beginner-friendly event. We're there to have fun. If anybody misbehaves, report it to the mods, report it to staff, and we will take care of it. We'll boot them from the CG. Although that might not happen instantly, but we will take care of it. We'll be on duty to make sure that bad actors are booted as promptly as we reasonably can. There might still be some bad actors, but the reality in my experience with these events is bad actors that then try and disrupt these events. I mean, they can disrupt it for a little bit, but they're not going to disrupt it for long because after they're booted, and that's it. So, so hopefully we can all have a great time with minimal disruption. And in terms of the fight itself, there isn't very much to say other than try and try and limit panic shields if you can. Panic shields happen when you basically do too much damage at interceptors but don't kill them outright. It's common with shard condas against harder interceptor variants. It is frustrating because it basically prevents the fight from advancing. So basically, don't just keep shooting arbitrarily interceptors that are already significantly damaged, because that's not going to do very much. Once they have a heart exerted, focus on the heart. But I mean, in a chaotic event like this, the reality is there's going to be a degree of panic shield, and it's kind of unavoidable. So also don't get too frustrated if a Hydra panic shields 3 times in a row. That happens. Like, just battle that shield through and keep going. It's going to be okay. Last but not least, we have opened this up to newcomers and beginners alike, and we've actually created the environment so that even people who are new to the game can make unengineered builds that are not going to be as effective as like sort of end game super engineered builds. So be kind, be nice to newcomers, encourage them, even if they may not have the latest and greatest build. They're here to learn and have fun, and we all were where they currently are now at some point in our elite career. So remember the human, remember the main goal for this event is to us all come together and have fun, and glory to mankind. If you have questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer what questions I can. Otherwise, people are going to be on point the day of the event to answer any questions that you may have day of. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have a blast. Folks, I'm very much looking forward to it. And to the mining of Goids and not Roids. So once again, glory to mankind. Going to Mechan, over and out.